Alright folks, Acidic Roots here, so we're gonna get further with this game and start getting out of some of these areas and having things start to click a little bit better. So, yep, we're still in the tree, but that'll be remedied soon enough. And there's a number of boss battles. There's actually 2 boss battles in this episode, so you're gonna be seeing some stuff, and we're gonna have a decent time with this. So, one thing that I was messing with was I was trying to play some more Tomb Raider. I was going to get a few more episodes of that belted out, but I have to say that project's kind of delayed just because, I mean, you know, if you see this like years from now, just understand that back in early 2022, stage 2 of this damn game gave me problems. I'm like, well, damn, if there's 15 stages or 18 stages in this game and I'm having problems with winning just in the second stage, that really tells me something. I don't want to say I have a penchant for it, but I've noticed that certain games really bring on the nastiness early on. Like, this happened to me in early 2021 with Prince of Persia. That was really kind of disappointing because I wanted to be able to complete that game, and it was just not in the cards, and I just had to say fuck it. But I definitely had every intention to get as far as I could in that game. I was just like, you know, if I can't beat stage 3, there's no way I'm going to be able to beat stage 19 out of 20, you know, so that's kind of the concept there. And then the final boss is probably an asshole too. So, luckily this game is not. You know, that's kind of the thing about it. It's a real serviceable game, and as you've noticed by this point, especially if you watched from all the way back episode 1, this is really getting into being like a 7, 8, 9 hour project now, and that's kind of the thing. Easily the longest project I've done on my channel, minus Final Fantasy VII, which, you know, that's just elongated as to begin with. That just really happens to be the remark. But this is kind of a beefy episode, so strap yourselves in because we're going to be here for an hour. That's kind of the concept. So there's action-oriented stuff with this puzzle, so you have to basically, what you really do for that, in case you're worried about it, you just let go of the A button for 1 second, and then you press it. As soon as he drops, you just hold on to it again, and he'll grab onto it. You don't have to press the A button right when you're on the grips to grab the wall. You just have to hold the A button and it'll do it automatically. So, yeah, it's simple enough, but yeah, I'm just kind of getting further with this. But really the problem with this dungeon was not so much the boss, but just getting out. I know that there's like some sort of situation or special item that you can get. Another thing I need to get in this game is I need to get Benjamin the life spell, because this next boss really whipped my ass a bit just because I didn't have the life spell equipped for Benjamin. So basically Kaylee here had to do all of the healing, and the problem with it is this guy can one-shot some of these characters, so it's like I'm really going to have to study a few previous LPs of this game and figure out where I can get the life spell for Benjamin or Zone and get that kind of in motion, because otherwise it's just not effective enough only having one character know how to use the life spell. It's kind of the thing, because otherwise you have to heal a lot, so it's just it's wiser to kind of go about it that way. But you'll see what I'm talking about by the end of this episode. We've got 57 more minutes basically, so yep. Just kind of lackadaisical. I've still been watching the news and stuff. This, you know, the thing about the news for folks that, you know, may live in like a different country or something, there's just like 5 or 6 different angles that are kind of happening that are just kind of tumultuous. Like, you've got inflation, you've got the Ukraine war, you've got what else do we have? Like gas prices being really high, lack of supplies, and you know, tornadoes and that type of stuff. So, I mean, I know the news sometimes tries to use scare tactics, but there is a lot of BS kind of going on that just kind of this is all the more obnoxious, you know. So it's just kind of, I just wonder what the news is like in South America and stuff, just to kind of be able to say, I know that women in Europe, sometimes they, you know, I mean, I've seen videos on YouTube where sometimes women broadcast without a shirt on. So I got, you know, when we talk about like SFW and civilized type mannerisms. It's kind of funny. Europeans just don't really care. I mean, they have nudist beaches, and that's, you know, obviously not straying too far off topic, but it's just kind of funny that Europe, you know, they always talk about Americans being sloppy, but then it's like, well, you know, you know, not gonna complain, really not. But kind of, it's a little bit early in the episode to belt into talking about shirtless newscasters, but I kind of feel like, you know, we've got enough time in the episode to kind of go about some of this stuff. So, like, what I used to say with my 2021 playthrough of this, which got canceled, I basically had a lot of breakfast-themed ideas for this, but this, to me, is basically something I would, yeah, I reset the game because I got pissed off, but yeah, this is basically, to me, like nighttime fare. This is like the sort of stuff that you get you get home at like, you get home at 1 o'clock in the morning or midnight or 10:45, and you just watch this like all night. This relatively kind of happens to be the situation about it. It's just so much simpler to do that. Because really, this is the type of game that this can be, you know, from when the sun sets to when the sun rises, you can watch a good chunk of this game and just have all the more fun. Just have the strobe light on and some 80s tunes, some 2000s tunes, play your favorites, have a playlist, and just watch this. It's this perfect mediator, I'd have to say, perfect peacemaker. You know, we should tell, like, the folks in Ukraine and Russia to just, you know, order fucking Little Caesars and watch, like, 20 episodes of, like, Mystic Quest, and you're not going to care about NATO anymore. I know that, you know, once again, I seem to be a little bit more bold today, but it's just kind of the concept behind it is just relatively sane, you know. It's kind of the concept. You get the idea from it. This Mystic Quest would cure these problems. It's just such a lackadaisical game. So, yeah, I'm kind of running out of. It's a nice Saturday. That's kind of what's going on here. So, yeah, I think I said in one of these episodes, if you're watching this from my gaming channel, Acid Roots, I think I've said in one of these episodes that I was getting ready to rent Sonic the Hedgehog. Well, I did eventually rent that game, or that movie, but I just need to get around to watching it. So I do have that floating around, but I don't know. I've just been kind of lazy. It's kind of the concept behind it. And like I said before, if you don't know, these slime enemies are weak against bomb. So it's interesting to kind of see that, but yeah. Pretty simplistic. Scoldger. Interesting name. I mean, it's difficult to kind of pay attention to the enemies. I mean, most of them are just retreads of previous enemies, but it's not like that bothers me, but I forget some of these characters' names. They actually do. I mean, they're just so off to the side, they don't pop up in your face like, oh, Scoldger does this. It's just very light and kind of, if you care, you care. If not, whatever, you know. So, just like even in this game, or well, obviously in this game, but really, I don't think much besides like the instruction booklet kind of implies that the main character's name is Benjamin. I mean, it doesn't even say that when you name the character. It just plain lets you decide for yourself. I mean, in some games it'll say like Link or something like that, you know, for the supposed character, but yeah. I had to go to Wikipedia to find out about that. Yeah, for some reason I'm running out of topics here. I mean, I'm ahead enough in like most of my YouTube channels, but I'm kind of doing this in like my relative spare time, just because there's not much of anything really going on, you know. And I don't. Well, there is stuff going on. It's just more like not YouTube related, because I've got the YouTube stuff taken care of, so I've been, you know, having to kind of do extra things. Like I was trying to do, like I said, I was trying to do some Tomb Raider, but that didn't turn out that well, so I don't know what I'm going to do with that. And I'm thinking of buying the next Super Nintendo game. Damn near, I'm like inches away from thinking about starting up Donkey Kong Country 3, because I just feel like without Tomb Raider, this is the only game I'm going to be playing. I kind of want to spruce it up a bit to kind of have some extra stuff. Initially, I didn't want to do Donkey Kong 3 until like the end of the year, but I'm just like, you know what, whatever. You know, we'll try it again and we'll get these in motion. Just to play and have another game up on the channel worth completing. I think getting both of these taken care of would be really good. I'd really like to get some more PS1 games done, but I'm telling you, Tomb Raider really pissed me off this evening. This was completely not in the mood for the shenanigans that I saw, and it just did not make me a very happy camper, but it's kind of the fucking thing there. I was just like, hell, you know, we can tell Benjamin and Kaylee all about it. You know, I'm sure they're all ears. These characters don't talk enough. I mean, it feels like a lot of this is just playing the fighting. This is really, I mean, yeah. I've said this numerous times on like my Mystic Quest playthrough for 2021, but yeah, it's just kind of the thing. But yeah, there's just an appeal about this game. This has a real lazy draw. There's something about like it's real lazy and kind of off to the side charm that's just like it's different from most Final Fantasies, but it still has enough to kind of keep it going. It's definitely useful, you know. I definitely feel like role-playing games, I don't know what happened to them. You know, I don't know if they still exist. I don't know if they're doing like, I remember like they did like dot hack and that type stuff for the PS2, but I have not really paid attention to like role-playing games since like the PlayStation 2 days. Like I want to say that like Elder Scrolls was like a role-playing game, but then even that doesn't feel like it, you know? It was just a huge open-world game for like the Xbox 360 and PS3, and I know I'm talking about 13 years ago, but kind of the concept about it is, yeah, I just don't know what happened to role-playing games. I don't know, they just got too large. I think that most people, the developers seem to think that people want like these open-world, you know, 500-hour video games, and you know, 500 hours is like 2 months worth of playing. That's really, I mean, I would have to say if 24 hours are in a day, then you take 24 times 10 would be 240, so 10 days would be 204. Well, I guess it wouldn't be 500 hours. It'd be about 20, yeah, 480 hours would be 20 days. That's about 3 full weeks that you would have to play this game non-stop to get to 500 hours. That's kind of the thing. I don't know. I mean, games are just getting too big. I mean, this had like the perfect length. There's just so much something good about this game to be able to say that, and just the stuff that you're kind of able to do, where it was limited, but it was never primitive and not, or inadequate, I guess we should say. So, and I don't know. I mean, another thing, you know, just in case there's still folks who are not, like, completely kind of attentively aware of it, there's not really a Game Boy or a DS type thing. I mean, I don't know what happened to the PlayStation Vita and those portable machines, but there's no Game Boys out and there's no PSPs out or anything like that. I don't know what you're supposed to do. I guess people just assume that if you want to do stuff on the go, you'll just watch YouTube on your phone or something as opposed to playing video games. I don't know. I mean, the children of today, the kids that were born like in what would it be, like 2016 and 2014 and stuff, they're I mean, you've got like 6-year-old kids that have cell phones now, so it's kind of like I don't know. I mean, that's the whole situation. Game Boys were popular 25, 30 years ago. It's just strange that there's just no any of that. It makes sense because then we could get some two-dimensional games like this again. Be fine. You know, I like retro, you know. Retro kicks ass. I mean, we need to bring it back. There's certain games that try to do it, but it's just always awkward because they have like a niche. So, This is not good. You know, Kaylee got knocked out. I'm kind of like, hey, you know, so now it resides on Benjamin's shoulders. So. that was unnecessary. Why are you fronting on me? Is that necessary? But yeah, these enemies are really not that tough. They just have a lot of status effects. I'm definitely thinking that, like, I'm fairly certain that there's some decent, there might be items in here, but I just am not in the mood to go through, like, 5-floor dungeons looking through every enemy. I mean, this game kind of assumes that you want to do that as far as, like, explore every nook and cranny. And some RPG gamers definitely can do it, but I'm just like, you know. I mean, I like my role-playing games to kind of have, like, more substance, more so than just the grinding, because there's a lot of grinding in this game. I mean, the battlefields, there's a shit ton of those, and you have to fight 10 fights, and then there's like 5 of them in each area that you have to do. So this is kind of, I'm just like, yep. But we are almost at the boss, so that's kind of the situation there. So you're going to see what the boss of this tree area actually is and stuff. So we finally basically arranged for that. Just trying to... Yep. So the reason why I was backing out is because I was trying to find a way around having to fight all these guys. But you really don't. You do not actually have to fight them. They're just kind of there if you want the extra experience. But the boss is right there. And what is it? What could it be? Is it a chimera? That's what it looks like. Some sort of griffin or something. I'm gonna save right quick, and then we'll be on our way. Doesn't even talk. It's a Ghidra. Never heard of that. I mean, Final Fantasy should obviously know about fantasy creatures. There's tons of those. But yeah, and I would also have to say, get used to, like, the boss characters having 2 flunkies with them, because that's going to start happening more. And of course, they usually tend to pick the enemies that you don't want to fight. Like, you'll see in the next boss fight that they pick 2 particularly nasty sub-enemies that make the fight that much more annoying. And they're just the appetizers, but they're still enough to piss me off, at least. So... But luckily, Kaylee is pretty powerful. She can one-shot them, or at least severely damage them in most cases. So, but yeah, so a good thing to do for this character is to use magic. I mean, I definitely like the white spell. It definitely helps. And the only thing is Kaylee is kind of prone to status effects, so it's kind of, you might have to use heal every now and then. You definitely don't want to have the computer operating this character at this stage. So yeah, if you don't have the life spell, you definitely want Kaylee to be at optimum health. That's the thing to pay attention to, because I don't know how many folks could take out this enemy just by themselves, but it's just something to know. It's good that she's strong against Petrify. But we do have to heal her, so go ahead and heal Kaylee, Benjamin. But what do I do? But keep in mind that Kaylee has a quick speed, so she's basically the quickest out of the 3 characters here. Unless, like, the boss is on, like, a rage tick or something like that. But it's just kind of, you know. But yeah, white will really kick the shit out of this character. So yeah, you definitely want to use that. And I want to say that arrow kind of does also. Those are definitely 2. I mean, considering that at this section of the game, we're at, like, wind areas, it's kind of, I mean, I think it's obvious that using arrow is going to help. But, yeah. It's weak against wind, but then it has a wind attack. Odd. So yeah, I mean, it's good to have to at least heal like every other turn. In some cases, there will be times where you have to heal every turn, but it's just kind of, I mean, this boss is not so bad about one-shotting your characters. So it's not something to overly worry about, but it does start to happen later. So I just wonder if it's going to happen in the area that I'm at right now, which is further than, I mean, that we're talking like part 8, maybe even part 9, where I'm getting ready to get to. So, but yeah, definitely watch out for Petrify. All it takes, if both characters get petrified, it's over. So, I mean, you should know that by now, but just keep using arrow on this asshole. I don't know why this game is so underrated. I mean, it's just, it really does feel like such a secondary game. I mean, it's still in the elite of the Super Nintendo machine, but this is kind of, it's not the primary category. When you think of like Super Mario and Donkey Kong Country and those type games, even like Final Fantasy 3 and stuff like that. I'm trying to think of other ones, NBA Jam and Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. This game is not overly spoke about, and it's, you know, it's like, hey, you know, get this game, don't be dumb. If you see this game, like for any person who is watching this, if you see this game for $8, you pick it up. You definitely, you get that, because that's a deal. And even for like $13, it's pretty good. I mean, that's the concept behind it. I mean, some folks are trying to sell this for like $50. I don't know if that, I almost want to say that that said something. I didn't catch what those words were. I should have looked at that, but while the tree was walking, I saw that there was like an exclamation point and something. Kind of like what happened in Super Mario World, where it says, "You are a super player. Go." Yeah, I didn't see. It said go something, but I guess you could rewind it and see what it says. Forgot what I was talking about. Had something to do with, oh yeah, this game. Yeah, you see this game for $15, you get it, because really, folks are going to turn around and try to sell it for like 50 or 65 or 45, something like that. You know, it's funny how 30-year-old video games are as much as 2022 video games, you know. Kind of the thing. I don't know, in some cases it almost feels like Atari games are pretty expensive too. I remember when like the PlayStation 2 was first out, you know, you could get Atari games for like a quarter or 75 cents or something, but now they've kind of gone up in price. And you have to understand that Atari games, for those that don't know, is just really one button and a joystick, and that's about all it really is. There's no music in those games, there's no anything, it's just one screen, and that's kind of virtually it. You just, I mean, what you see is what you get. Most of those games don't even have any sort of ending. I think the best video game for the Atari is basically like Pitfall or something. But, yeah. I mean, I don't even think you can complete Pitfall. I mean, there's probably Let's Plays of it circulating out there, but I think really it's just until they get a game over. I mean, there might be an end. And don't quote me on that there's not an ending in Pitfall, but it just seems like most Atari games just didn't have the ability to do it. So, yeah, I could use a Powerade. I'm pretty thirsty right now. Been sipping on a red one recently. I basically like all the flavors of Powerade, but really the Walmart I usually visit only has like 5 primary flavors, which is just red, blue, purple, orange, and yellow. I don't know why they've trimmed down. I mean, I don't know why they just up and said one day, we're just only going to sell 5 flavors of Powerade. this didn't make sense. There's no logic behind it. I mean, the green one was good, the pink one was good, the lemonade flavor one was good, the white flavor was good. I want to say that there was like a neon green flavor that was like limeade or pineapple something. I don't remember what that one was, but yeah, there just used to be so many. I don't know why they. And this was before COVID. I mean, that's the thing. I don't even. I want to say even as far back as 2019, they just kind of trimmed down on them. I don't know what Powerade's doing. I mean, they're everywhere. You can get them at any store. You can get them at Walgreens. You can get them at Target. You can get them at gas stations. But they're just available at different places. It's idiotic. But so yeah, if you're wondering what's going on here, I don't know how to get out of this dungeon, and it was kind of pissing me off a bit, to be honest. I was kind of like, damn, you know, because obviously I started this like 2 weeks before I got to this point later on, and I didn't remember how I got here. So I mean, it's a maze, and that's the real concept about it. So I just finally started getting pissed, and I was kind of getting aggravated about it, you know. So yeah, we kind of bled through some extra minutes wasted here, but you know, this would be a good time to go make yourself a sandwich, or you know, take off your coat, that type stuff, take off your shoes, play with your dog a little bit, play with your cat, something like that, feed your cat, you know. But it's kind of the atmosphere about it. Yeah, I'm still pretty lost here. This kind of dumb. This is truly something to complain about. I mean, role-playing games don't do this as much anymore, where they expect you to exit the dungeon that you came through, but it is something to kind of know. I mean, I respect certain role-playing games when they do it, just to kind of teach, like, the value of hard work in some cases, but I will tell you, when they make like the dungeons like maze-like they did this time, it just gets utterly stupid. That's like the main thing. So but yeah, if you'll notice, all the enemies are cleared out, so you could really go back and nab all those treasure chests if you felt like it. I'm gonna definitely save. That's right, folks. We're going to keep saving just because I have to be very mindful to make sure what happened to my 2021 playthrough doesn't happen with this one. Definitely would not be a situation that I would be very much a fan of. So we've got some stuff here, but I'm just kind of underneath the impression of trying to, like, I want to say that we're about 80% done with this game. That's kind of the atmosphere about it. Is there's 3 more areas at least that have boss characters in them, and one of which is the final boss area. So for the most part, we've seen the girth of this game, and that cloak character gave us a very vague tip, like he's been doing. I mean, he really reminds me of like the owl from Zelda. It's strange that this game has some similarities to the Zelda series. I mean, I feel like for any person or folks who like Zelda: A Link to the Past, I feel like this is basically like the companion piece to that game. They're both of a similar setting, and this really feels like an action RPG as much as it does just a regular role-playing game. You know, definitely both this. I mean, the 1-2 punch to get here would be Zelda: A Link to the Past, and then Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. They're just very similar, but yeah, I mean, between going in that tree, just like in Ocarina of Time, and then like you know, that owl character that gives those tips, it's kind of funny. But I do actually like when games pay homage to other games either way, you know, if it's kind of mutual and stuff. So but for the most part, there's kind of like pieces of advice that you don't really mention games. It's not like you're gonna see like in a Sonic the Hedgehog game that they're gonna come out and mention like Donkey Kong Country or something like that. It's just not something most of the time branding is specific to like that game, but it's the spiritual kind of elemental stuff that kind of goes along with it. But all right, so we're going to Windia, and this is the town for the next good while. We're gonna spend a handful of episodes here, and yeah, the problem with this town is what it implies is the wind, and definitely buy this Cupid locket. It's gonna help. It's just overall. I mean, this game does not have like any facetiousness as far as like, you know, questioning, do you want to buy this or don't you? It's just plain, you get the item, you buy it because it's going to help. There's not enough characters in this game to the point where there's really like sabotage characters and stuff, so. But. So. This is a decent town. I mean, it seems relatively sparse, but I still like the Fireburg with Ruben. That was a good town. This felt so much more glitzy. Glitz and glamour. Alright, so we've got our quest set out. That's kind of the concept there, is just trying to say that. So apparently something has to do with Mount Gale. So what could it possibly be, you know? Yeah, like I've said before that I wanted like a spin-off of this game again, like another game in like the Mystic Quest vein, but I could also stand for this game to get like a remake of some sort, just to kind of, I mean, even if I would still want it to be two-dimensional, just kind of seeing the way that this could have wound up. I mean, if they can do it with Final Fantasy VII, they can do it with Mystic Quest also. I would just have to say it'd be interesting to kind of see, especially with like cinematic sequences. I mean, really, I'm surprised that they haven't made like a series of like Final Fantasy yet. I guess just if it would have been like stuff like Final Fantasy 7 or 8, I definitely feel like that could be like a pretty cool Netflix series, but for the most part, I don't know. I mean, Final Fantasy is really kind of curbed down. It's just not what it was 20 years ago. I mean, really, basically all of the PlayStation Final Fantasies were good. I mean, that's the thing about it. They just did some different stuff, but I would say to me, after the PlayStation 2 is kind of where I stopped keeping track of it. I never paid attention to the PS3 or the Xbox 360 Final Fantasies, and they lost so much distinction. I could at least watch Final Fantasy X, but I didn't care for Final Fantasy 11. I don't know enough about it. Maybe I would like that one, but I don't know. They lost the distinction. Even this game has better distinction than the ones that went past the PS2. It's simply better. But yeah, I'm just kind of hungry, kind of thirsty. Could use a Powerade. That'd be really helpful. Yeah. Still watching the news and stuff. You know, there's stuff going on there. I mean, I swear that there are just certain days on the news that it just kind of feels like so sparse. You know, like it's like sometimes the news just gets into like a central theme of topics, and it's just like a second and third, and in some cases fourth and fifth take of like the same subject, and it's just like, you know, there just are certain spare days, and it's just, that's kind of a concept. I mean, even YouTube does this. That's the whole atmosphere about it, is you know, days that are just kind of bland and unnoteworthy. I mean, those are the kind of days where I would just prefer to go to McDonald's and, you know, get like some groceries, get a pizza from Little Caesars, that type of stuff. It feels so much better to do that. But on specific days where you don't go anywhere and nothing's going on, it really, it's enough to make you want to pull out your hair. That's the basic fucking concept towards it. But alright, enough delay. Let's go to Mount Gale. Let's kind of figure out what's up with it. So, there's stuff to do here. Don't think that this is a pointless romp, because it's not. So, yep. Fair amount of fights here, I'm definitely going to say. But it's not that tough. It's not going to be that difficult. It's more of a task of patience more so than anything else. At this stage, you should have the income to afford the seeds, because that's about all it really requires. It's just a quick cure spell and a quick heal spell in some cases. But for the most part, yeah, you know, even if you're under leveled, it's not too much of a big deal, I would simply have to say. But I do think I'm probably, you know, eventually I'm going to have to go off camera and find the life spell for Benjamin, just because, I sense that I'll need it, because otherwise I feel like maybe, I don't know the final boss yet, but just to kind of say, I would have to inquire that it could result in something that winds up pissing me off. So, yeah, he keeps healing himself, and of course without Kaylee in the picture, that's kind of the problem. I mean, this game will do that every now and then. You'll get these enemies, like later ones are going to start healing to the point where you basically have to attack them and get them gone. That's the whole thing about it, but I woke up early today, you know. I kind of hate when that happens. I don't like being involuntarily mourning. Not something I prefer, because the thing about it is I still get tired at the same time, and it's like, you know. Mornings are typically only good when you've got something going on. I think that's like the main thing is when you have a busy morning, something productive that you're going to do, or you've got eventful lists of things, that's kind of the concept. But for the most part, it's so much easier waking up when you voluntarily want to. Yeah, I'm gonna keep using Cure. So let's go ahead and... I've been kind of hesitant to scale this dungeon. I'm kind of like... it's kind of the concept here is getting that done. So... Yep, I surprisingly don't have an overabundance to talk about. I'm trying to think of like some stuff. Yeah, I think I'm gonna get some McDonald's today. Seems like a fair trade to sit there and go out and do that. I'll probably make a video about it, post that up to Acidic Roots. I've got some nice treats. I mean, it's still been a relatively cold April. I mean, it's like mid-late April now, and it's still, you know, as I look at the temperature on my computer, it's saying it's just 60 degrees. It's kind of cloudy, but I mean, this is about like the 10th overcast day that there's been this month, if not more than that. It's been kind of a more cool month, more so than a warm month. And, you know, spring is typically supposed to be warm, but it's acting like it's autumn. I mean, the weather just doesn't care at this stage. That's the main thing. The weather is just like, I feel like, you know, it just kind of feels like it's October 20th, despite the fact that it's April 20th. You know, it's kind of, I don't know. It's odd. And I was watching the news yesterday, and they were talking about a nor'easter getting ready to happen across, like, the Connecticut and Maine and New Hampshire and all those states and stuff. And it's like, you know, it's just, it's moronic. It's the basic concept. I mean, certain people, I mean, there's definitely some good things about New York. They've got good pizza. They've got good subway stations and hot dog stands and that type of stuff. Some real good kind of food like that and Philly cheesesteaks and stuff. But they really have some of the most horrid weather. They're also pretty prone to COVID outbreaks. So, kind of the concept. I mean, places like New York is just bad. I mean, there was one time I was watching the news, and it was kind of like, it was like literally negative 12 degrees, or maybe it was negative 20. I don't remember. It was past negative 10 degrees. I'll definitely tell you that, which is just idiotic. It's like, fuck that entirely. You know, I mean, to put that in perspective, I mean, freezing temperatures are like at 30 degrees. I think it's 30. It's like 29, 30, 31 degrees, something like that. But if water freezes at 30 degrees and it's negative 12 out, it's like, forget it. The only reason I would go out is just for beer or a fine bitch. That's about the only reason at this stage to really do that sort of stuff. And of course, if you have to pay the bills, if you haven't paid them in better weather. But that's kind of the concept. So, yeah. So, good. I'm glad that Zone decided to level up. I mean, that doesn't seem to happen as often. I mean, I know I could probably stand to do some of these battlefields a bit more, but this is kind of like hell. But if you'll notice, there's now vampires. That's kind of the thing. That's a new enemy they've decided to introduce, is there being vampires around these parts. They're kind of cool. I mean, I didn't expect to see them in this game, I'll tell you that. I like the assortment of enemies in this. Final Fantasy always has good enemies. You know, they always have some creative ones. I'm just surprised that there aren't like black mages and those type enemy or characters in this. I mean, really, there's no Final Fantasy mainstays. There's no Mughals or things like that. You know, they just don't really put those in this. I don't know why they didn't. You know, it would have made sense. But yeah, the bombs are definitely strong when there's just one enemy. I mean, that's the thing. It's just because the effects of it are used in a multi-fashion. That's the reason. In case, I mean, you should know this by this point, but yeah. But yeah, I've done a pretty slight job with collecting all the... I mean, for the most part, I was more focused on, like, the exercise of, like, the storyline more so than the grinding. But the problem with it is I mean, the game is not going to create, like, a massive toll to the point where you're going to be punished for not wanting to grind. But it's just kind of the fact that, you know, some of the items and special techniques, you're kind of low-key making it tougher for yourself. It's never something that's going to full-blown... like, you have to get this item to get further. Or this technique. But I do definitely, no matter what, I do feel like, you know, Benjamin could probably stand to use the life spell. I just would have to say. So, kind of the remark about it. Scoldger. Clever name. Yeah. You definitely don't want your characters getting confused because they can pretty much one-shot each other. That's kind of the thing. Is it's like, that's a big bucket of nope right there. I'll tell you that much. I don't know if there's the zombie status effect in this. I want to say there's like certain... I know it's in Final Fantasy VI, but I don't know. I think there's enough status effects in there in this one, but I don't know if zombies specifically in it. I know we fought zombies like a couple episodes ago, but it's kind of like hell, you know. We are almost at the boss. That's kind of another thing here. Is like I said, this dungeon was really, or this area was not that massively difficult and such. So... yeah, I try to tend to take out the one enemy when there's three of them and there's only one of one type. I try to get rid of that one first just because I feel like it probably has like it's an overall good idea. But, you know, your mileage may vary. So, I hit the microphone with my finger, didn't mean to do that, but yeah, these water hags are kind of a pain in the ass just because they kind of mess around and they heal themselves, and they also counterattack. So they've got some nasty techniques here, and that little silver thing down there that's moving is the boss. So I didn't realize, I thought that was just an enemy. It didn't look like a boss character, so I was thinking that he was higher up here, but it surprised me. So I'm going to get this treasure chest, and you definitely want to get this because it's an armor. So, I mean, this game is kind of, I mean, I feel like the fashion about this game is it basically implies that you want to explore, but you don't have to. Oh, you don't have to do 100%, but you should probably do more than like a certain percent. You know, say 55, 60%, just because it kind of, you know, you get, because they throw these armor items in these dungeons, and if you don't at least somewhat look for them, then you're not going to really get like the stronger things. So it helps, you know. But I mean, that's why you're watching this, is just to be able to find out for yourself the ones that you want to go for. But yeah, the Apollo helm. I think that's the last power up in armor of the game for him. Zone definitely needs to be healed. And keep in mind, when we get to the boss in a few minutes, definitely, I mean, if you have the life spell for Benjamin, then it's definitely simple enough. But yeah, you do want, this is a tough boss. That's kind of the situation about it. I guess if you're leveled properly, it's not as bad, but this gave me a number of game overs, and I kind of was starting to get a little bit peeved with the dude. But so 3 vampires. Yep. There needs to be another Castlevania game too. I don't know when the last one of those came out, but they need to redo that. I mean, I know that there was a Castlevania television show on Netflix for a while there, but I mean, Castlevania is something that needs to stick around. I mean, it's an old franchise, but I definitely feel like it's something. They need to figure out more variations of that, because I don't know if they're on like the PS5 or, I mean, it didn't feel like it had a home on the Xbox, but I do think Castlevania probably could use, like, I don't know, it's weird, you know, those franchises like Mega Man and Street Fighter and Castlevania, they're relatively awkward anymore. And yeah, here's the boss. Yeah, I'm just kind of reading text about that, but yeah, like I was trying to say, yeah, I mean, the thing about it is like, you know, it's kind of a toss-up, because some folks will say, you know, we want new series, but then at the same time, I don't know. I mean, I kind of am under the impression that certain series, as long as they can continue to have vital entries, I would definitely say I don't mind, but it's kind of odd, because the current game franchises don't have the distinction of the ones from 30 years ago, and I don't know why. I don't know why that is. I don't know why Final Fantasy VII is more distinct than, like, a standard PS5 game or something like that, or Xbox Series X game. It's relatively awkward. They need to invent characters that are as cool as Cloud Strife and Dante and those type people, you know. This would be interesting, you know, Claude from Grand Theft Auto 3 and Max Payne and some of those people, you know. This would kind of seem to be the right formation to sit there and do. So yeah, these initial openings, I'm not going to really start dealing damage to this boss until like the next episode, so I'm just going to have to say, like, this is mostly just superfluous footage right here. So I think this character, this boss, I think his name's like Doulahan or something like that. He's faster than Kaylee, so typically, for the most part, Kaylee is basically the fastest character. She'll always get to attack first, but it seems like he's actually faster, which kind of makes it annoying. That's another thing that pisses me off, is just because I'll do like a heal attack and then he'll kill off the character before the health measure can be used. So you have to keep in mind that the boss is basically the fastest one, unless you're really high leveled and such. So now, I mean, now that Kaylee's out of the picture, I don't have an ability to heal, and I just said, fuck it, you know. There's no way I'm going to be able to beat both these characters. I probably use up every single one of my items trying to. It's just not worth it. So, I don't know if there's a Phoenix down in this. I really feel like it just supposes that you have to use the life spell. But so that didn't take long. You know, Zone sure got knocked out pretty quickly. Yeah, it's relatively sparse because I'm just running out of stuff. I guess I'm going to watch the news today in a few hours. And I don't know, like, the sheer amount of stuff that's going to be different. I mean, it's like I was trying to say, that these days are just kind of relatively sparse, and but I'm eventually gonna have to start hunting for more YouTubers or something. I'm just gonna have to figure out like certain things. I simply am not a fan of hunting anymore. I did it like 6-7 years ago, found like certain YouTubers, but I'm kind of underneath the impression that there's just way too much fluff. That's the whole situation. There's a lot of fluff, a lot of people who have like one big video they're known for, and then just kind of taper off and don't update, or they're people who have jobs and real life is more important to them than having a substantive YouTube career. There's just plenty of those situations. Those types of people happen a lot. The ones who, you know, have some good videos, but then, you know, typically use their jobs as an excuse because they know people want more videos, so they try to be facetious about it, you know. Kind of happens to be a thing, but luckily, I would have to say, well, actually not luckily, because I've commented, Cobalt and I have commented about this, and Jackal Goldkick as well. We've talked about how basically, like, you know, YouTube is dying. I mean, I think YouTube is always going to be around, but the concept of just kind of saying that the broadcasting is essentially going to become like fluff and celebrity bound is kind of the context behind it. I mean, yeah, there's millions of YouTubers out there, but they're either going to give up before they're found, or this is going to kind of be that concept. It's kind of, there's nothing really that can be done. I kind of feel like Kaylee is just not the opportune character for this fight. I mean, she is fairly tough, but I'm kind of curious as to, like, the situation about it, you know. I don't know if it's just plain that Zone is under-leveled here, but I really feel like, I mean, I think a good portion of it just deals with the fact that I don't have the life spell, but, yeah, there's simply screwy mechanics towards this sort of situation. So this is one of those situations where I would say the battlefields pay off. I mean, some folks actually do them. I mean, they're tedious, but it ultimately gets your level higher to the point. I just wonder if Zone was at like level 30 or even higher than Kaylee, if it would wind up paying off something like that. But, yep, so I know this is kind of tedious. I know I'm just kind of regurgitating content here, but there's, I don't know, I've been talking for like the past 25 minutes. I'm kind of running out of spark. This is why I like making my videos like less than 15 minutes mostly, is because it's simply easier to kind of deal with that. But I committed to the beef ravioli run. I feel like I might as well keep up with that conduct and just kind of be able to do it. So, yep. we're going to be seeing the Duelahan and the vampires for a while. So. Yep. I need to get Taco Bell again also. I talk so much about McDonald's. Like, I know I've talked about McDonald's a number of times in these videos, but I need to get some Taco Bell too. Like, yeah. There's certain stuff that needs to kind of magically happen. It's going to be a relatively... pop my... stretch a bit. So yeah, basically, because I've had to reset this dungeon just because these characters are kind of smart. I don't like when the AI is smart and stuff and will actually attack the character that's injured. Like, it feels like the AI was just a little bit smarter this time, where like Zone has more health, but they'll attack Kaylee instead because she's almost dead. And unfortunately, I mean, for the most part, she's generally stronger than the enemies in this area, but when she gets attacked by like a super attack, even she can fall to this. And unfortunately, because she can't level up, it's just a foregone conclusion. That's kind of the thing. So it's just kind of, you basically have to heal often to avoid this. But like I said, with the Duelahan character being tough or faster than Kaylee, it kind of makes it extremely difficult. It's just a way of keeping you on your toes. I would say that this battle probably would be pretty mediocrely easy if it weren't for the fact that he were that fast, but something to pay attention to. So luckily I've got plenty of seeds as long as I can use them. I mean, that's like the main thing. So, and that Doom Dance is really powerful. I want to say that can one-shot Kaylee, so you definitely have to pay attention to that. So, but yeah, I'll tell you a spell that definitely kicks this dude's ass is the White Spell and then Arrow. Both of those do an extreme amount of damage to him. I eventually get into the swing of realizing that I need to use that often. So, we're not even damaging this asshole. That's the whole thing. We haven't even seen his other damage animations yet. You know? But even with like a slight, I still managed to beat this guy eventually. I know you're probably sick of seeing this fight, but you know, at the same time, I mean, it's one of those teeth gritting situations where it's like, God damn it, you know, I'm kind of sick of this, but then at the same time, it's interesting. That's how this game bases. That's the reason why I like this game more than most Super Nintendo games nowadays, because, you know, Donkey Kong Country 2 didn't have this kind of appeal. I mean, it was just a standard Super Mario type adventure, but I mean, this is the kind of stuff, like the tedious fun kind of thing. Like, the PlayStation was really good at those types of games. Like, Crash Team Racing had it, Tomb Raider had it. You know, there's like a Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man puzzle game, something like that for the PlayStation that had it. Maybe Jackie Chan, Stuntmaster had it, those type games. There's just a number of them that really had that tedium to them, but they still managed to be fun. Even Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, things like that. And this is such a Super Nintendo game. It's very difficult to find these games, but I do like that concept in a lot of ways. Alright, we're finally almost at the end of this episode, so it's going to be thrown together, and we will, of course, figure out the conclusion of this next time, and we'll get to the last two areas of the game. There is some stuff. There is some lacing together. There's some crossing of the T's and dotting the I's in these concepts coming up here pretty soon. So, this relatively happens to be the thing. Yeah, so I tried Quake, didn't work, but, there. Well, it's starting to get damaged. So, alright, so subscribe for more fun. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful night, and I'll see you in part 8. Stay tuned, folks. It's on the way.